Great. Oh boy.
Presenting is Wenger. He's in PGA. He's in project planning on the next context-based solutions team. He's got 10 years of experience in both the public and private sector with a focus area in transportation planning and GIS dashboard applications. Please welcome Ryan.
Hey. Thanks. All right, thanks everybody. So basically I want to go over just some work that we're doing with the city of Bartow. We've been building some GIS dashboards and applications for them. That's kind of that first phase for them, and then kind of talk about what we're working with phase 2. But to give a little backstory on kind of how we got to this, back in 2024, the city of Bartow had a student who was hit and killed walking to school. Since then, the city has kind of looked at how can we improve our transportation safety throughout the city. So they put together a traffic safety program initiative. And the first phase of that was looking at Jackson Avenue, which was the corridor where the student was hit, and kind of doing some concept plans and looking at what improvements can we do along there. The second phase was the GIS part of this. And this part looked at developing them in overview GIS portal. So right now, currently the city doesn't have a GIS portal on their site. If you go to look for any of their site, this data, you got to request it. They might have it. It might be somewhere. It might, they're not sure where some of the stuff's at. Small cities, you know, hard to kind of get some of that information public. So that was one of our first things, was how do we get all the GIS data that they currently have on a dashboard, on a server, but also pull in data from FDOT, Polk County, and any other local data that they might use. Signal 4, how do we get it in use? Then the second phase of it was to look at, or sorry, the second dashboard part of it, this is an internal dashboard only. This is not for the public to view. And this looks at their asset condition. So in 2022, they hired Transmap to go out and do a LiDAR collection throughout their entire city on their signage, their curb ramps, their sidewalks, their pavement markings and stripings, and their crosswalks to get a condition of what it's in. From 2022 to 2025, it sat in a folder. So in 2025, we then got this data and we were able to go through and figure out what's in here, clean it up, and kind of figure out what we can do with it. But one of the biggest issues we discovered was in between 2022 and 2025, we've had Florida weather. We've had hurricanes. The city has replaced these signs that were damaged. They've done other maintenance work in there. And none of this data has been put in their GIS system that was collected by Transmap. It was all done on pen and paper in Excel. So that was how everything was tracked. So part of our first part of this was, so first off, this right here is the entry phase to the internal staff dashboard. So this, if you're a city employee, this is what you will see. And you'll come in here and you can see here, they initiated a thing called C-Click Fix. They just started using this, and this is kind of just to get public input on things that they see outside the city. This has probably been in play for maybe 4 months now. But the first part of this dashboard that we put together is this one right here. And this is their public facing dashboard. This is where all their GIS data is stored. This is where everything is at. And you can come into here and you can see everything that we have. We broke everything down into bike and pedestrian features, civic destinations, census data, flooding, land use, property appraisers, traffic information, transit networks, utilities, all of it's in here. And, you know, just to look at the traffic or the crash data here, you can see where we kind of did it. So you can see an overarching of, you know, clusters of where crashes are at. But then as you get zoomed in, it breaks into your fatalities and your, you know, your injuries. So you can kind of see more about that. But you can also look at it from other perspectives too. And this one here is kind of where, if you're working for a project with the city of Bartow, this is where you're going to land up. So let's say you want to download this data now. You can download it right out of here. You can pull it from this layer. You can download it, put it in your own project. So that was one of the projects we worked on with the city, and just kind of putting all this data together. And again, if you were pulling data from FDOT, if FDOT updates their server system, City of Bartow system automatically pulls it. So the only thing that they would really need to maintain is data that they are working on, so their own data, and then of course exporting out Signal 4 data and, you know, doing the crash stuff over and over again. This map here, this is their level of traffic stress. So this came from the FDOT flow chart that we built into their entire roadway system for their local roads. So they can go through and do a drop down and select any roadway improvement that's happened. So if let's say they added a bike lane, they can put that bike lane. This will automatically populate that new level of traffic stress based on the improvements that the city has made to that road. This also helps them be able to prioritize where they should start looking at for safety improvements along their roadways. So this is the first set of dashboards that we created for them. The second part is their transportation asset inventory. And this is that data that was initially collected by Transmap. So you can see we have our marked crosswalks, our curb ramps, our pavement symbols and stripings, our sidewalks, and our signages. So you'll see here in this blue little buffered area. So this was the area that the city identified as a priority zone. This was your crosswalks. This was your school zones. This was your high injury network. And this was also your area where there was a bike pedestrian crash related. Doesn't matter on the severity of it, but also a KSI crash. And then we were able to kind of go through and prioritize those assets. And the purple ones we have not made it to collect. That's kind of coming in with our next area of kind of what do we need to go out to and collect next for data. And that will come in phase 2. But you can see we were able to go through and start prioritizing things. So the column on the right over there shows what we've been able to go out and actually look at since then. So just looking at crosswalks here, they have 19 crosswalks that are in poor condition. This is either just the pavement's bad and it's worn down, or there's no crosswalk at all. There should be one there, or it's faded. But alongside of that, we went through and provided cost estimates, high-level planning cost estimates that will go out. So when you go out and you say, I have a sign that needs to be replaced, you can get a level of an understanding of how much it's going to cost you now to replace your signage right here. So right now the city has approximately $23,000 in sign repair that they would need to make based off those 51 signs. And that's just replacing the panel pieces, not the pole, not anything else. This is just the panel pieces. Since we put this out for the city used to get a $5,000 annual budget for signage repairs. They now have a $50,000 budget for annual repairs for signages. So you can see just by the city being able to show this, that they're able to actually say, look, we need to do this stuff, and this is what we can do. So this was kind of one of the projects that we worked with them on. And then the other one that we did is they're looking at their crash data. And this we pulled into a Power BI, and we pulled their crash data, and it kind of just pulls from Signal 4, and it's updated. We'll pull it in every year, hit a refresh, and it'll auto-populate. But this lets the city kind of go through and get an understanding of where's their crashes at, what are they doing? You know, if they just want to look at crashes that were in 2020, all that populates for them. And this is just an update that they're doing. And this is also something that only they'll be able to view and not the public, just because it does give that extra information that the public-facing dashboard does not give you. And we just don't want everybody coming to the public, to the city, and saying, hey, we have these, you know, this is what we're seeing. How do we fix this kind of thing? Kind of just keeps the burn off of them. So yeah, so we've been able to kind of work with the city on developing a lot of things. And our next phase is kind of integrating this now over to the city side, training their city staff on how to use it. And it's all ran off a field collector app from the data side. So the city can go out with the field collector app and say, we want to look at signs, and they can go through and select them and say the condition that they're in, and it'll automatically update on this dashboard from this side. So there's no backhand stuff that needs to be done on top of this. And then the other project that we're talking about doing with them and working on is kind of doing a post-storm data collection for them. So they'll go out after a storm, and it'll be different than this one here, but they can go out and kind of just mark locations of where damage happened at, and then get an understanding of like cost that needs to have gone to it and when it's improved. And then that way they can kind of track everything throughout the year. But just want to share this first phase with you guys for what we're working with the city of Bartow. And I'm sure if you see us next year, we'll be a lot further along with this. But does anybody have any questions? Yes. So right now it's on our PGA side. Eventually we'll get it migrated over to the city of Bartow, and I believe they're run on an enterprise. So we'll migrate everything to their enterprise system. Yes. Yeah, so let me pull that one up. So they have, so this is everything. They have their fire hydrants, their sewer stations, manholes, water valves. I mean, all that over there that they have in their system that they use. Yep. No other questions? Yes. Yeah, so the city of Bartow hired Transmap to go out and they did it with their LiDAR system. And they did, yeah. Yep. Nothing else? Perfect.